Daarom jy say, whenever I leave the house, and on whatever thing my eyes fall on, Sabr. Allah Ta'ala says, Wallahu yuhibbu as-sabirin. Allah Ta'ala is lief with al-Qiyam.
School governing body of South Coast Madrasa.
Hello there and welcome to today's weekend edition. In today's edition, we look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and we try to look at the impact back home here in South Africa, how South Africans have reacted to this conflict. Of course, two countries, Palestine and South Africa, have lived in similar historical conditions. We've found out that if there's anything that unites South Africans more, it is the Palestinian cause. Last week, when Israel started its bombardment of the Gaza Strip, South Africans from all walks of life united and protested against the Israeli incursions on Gaza. The first protest was held in Johannesburg outside Lituli House, which is the ANC headquarters. Hundreds of South Africans converged at ANC and protested, calling for the Israeli ambassador to be expelled from South Africa. Of course, this is the first clip that opens today's program.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! No Zionism! No Zionism!
Yes.
Yes, we are ready to talk. Stop the war! Stop! Stop the war! Stop! Stop the war! Stop! Stop the war!
Well, basically, we have to show solidarity with the people of Palestine. We have to show solidarity with the people of Palestine. It's our moral obligation to be here today. South Africa has been a close friend of the Palestinian people, and we needed to come out and show the Palestinian people that they're not alone, as they've been bombarded from all sides by apartheid state, the last rogue state of the world, and we had to show that solidarity this afternoon.
Do you expect that South Africa to come and listen to your voices and expel Israeli ambassador from South Africa?
Well, we're going to do our best. We've come here to Lutuli House today. It's a revolutionary house. We were part of this revolution in the country, so we come back to our friends today to say, don't forget us. We're calling on you for help. And the best help South Africa can give in memory of President Mandela is that we got to take into cognizance what he said, that our freedom is incomplete without that of the Palestinian nation. So we here to say, we're reminding you what Comrade Tata Mandela had told us, and while reminding you, we're asking you to please send back the apartheid mission in our country, to send it back home.
The message is simple. If anyone misbehaves in your house, you ask them to leave. We are asking the Israeli embassy to leave nicely, or else we will be going on like this, asking and demanding that they be removed. We do not need war criminals to be based in our country, committing all the things that they commit. We are not welcome with that. We are not happy with that.
In Durban again, member of South African Artists Against Apartheid, representing the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions Movement South Africa. We're in front of the City Hall steps in Durban, South Africa, where we are holding a peaceful picket and protest in support of Gaza, the largest open-air prison in the world, where the Israeli government has chosen to launch a second devastating offense called Pillar of Defense, an offensive assault into the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip, 45 kilometers long, 11 kilometers wide, over 2 million people in one space. There's nowhere to go when the bombs start dropping, and the bombs are dropping right now in Gaza. It is Friday the 16th. The bombs have been dropping since last week, Thursday. Assassinations have happened. We are saying here in South Africa, around the world, it is beyond time for this to end finally. We know that the Palestinian solidarity groups are hoping and calling on the South African government to take some decisive action now to say to the Israeli government that this is not acceptable, on any grounds, especially on the grounds of human rights and humanitarian issues, that for anybody around the world to drop bombs on such a small area with such a vast, large civilian population, there is nothing that you can call that but a war crime. And we are calling on the South African government to take a decisive act, expel the Israeli ambassador, divest from Israel until they stop perpetrating these war crime acts. This is Israeli apartheid at its worst, and we are here in Durban making sure that people know about that. Respect.
The following day, hundreds of South Africans converged in Lenasia, south of Johannesburg, where they sat for a pro-Palestinian rally. And this rally attracted many people from different walks of life: politicians, members of the civil society community, and members of different religious organizations. Most notable among these guests at the Lenasia function was the Secretary General of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, Mr. Zwelanzima Vavi. Mr. Zwelanzima Vavi spoke at length about South Africa's support for the people of Palestine. He reaffirmed COSATU's commitment in helping the people of Palestine in their fight for the struggle for freedom. Of course, as you know, Palestine has been occupied by Israel for so many years. Here is a speech by Zwelanzima Vavi.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Let me acknowledge all of you, brothers and sisters, dear comrades and friends, my leaders in the front table here, and everybody that have honored this rally tonight here in Lenasia. Let me thank you once more for giving us an opportunity to be part of this esteemed gathering of all of these peace-loving people of our country, yearning for peace and in solidarity with their brothers and sisters and comrades in Palestine. Today we're gathering under a little bit of different circumstance than when we were just marching in the streets here. A dark cloud of the most inhuman atrocities of occupation against a people is now hanging, not only above the heads of the people of Palestine, but above all of our heads. Wars of colonial expansion and racist domination are being waged in the name of fighting terrorism. This represents a vicious attack on the dignity not only of the people of Palestine, but of all humanity, particularly all of us who suffered under colonialism and apartheid here in South Africa. So tonight we take the opportunity, as if we have not done that so many times in the recent past, in particular the recent days, to, in the strongest terms possible, condemn the barbaric attacks, the 5 airstrikes on Gaza, in particular in the morning of the 17th of November 2012, including the bombing of the offices of the Prime Minister, Ismail Haniyeh. The Israeli military admits that it has struck more than 200 Palestinian targets overnight on the 17th of November, and as well as striking on Ismail Haniyeh headquarters, which was then reduced to a huge pile of rubble. Israeli rockets struck the Hamas Police and Homeland Security Headquarters and the house of Hamas Commander Ahmed Rando. Many innocent people have been killed in this round of separate attacks by Israeli drones, 1 in Rafah and 3 in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the middle of the Gaza Strip, as well as in many other places. To date, and we're not looking at the history, we're talking about the recent days, over 135 people have been killed. The majority of them, children, women, and the aged. This is what brings us here today. Because today we here to say that our hands of solidarity extends and will recognize no borders and will touch every soul of those people that have been killed by those bombs. We stand in complete solidarity with all of them. We reaffirm our total solidarity with the people of Palestine and their legitimate struggle in demand of their full national sovereignty and human rights, an end to Israeli attacks, the removal of the settlements in Palestinian territories, and the demolition of that apartheid wall that restricts the free movement, of the people of Palestine. In one word, ending the occupation should be the ultimate goal of all of our solidarity actions at a global scale. I don't know whether you are able to see that map. Can you see the tragedy unfolding? I'm sure when you go out of here, I saw the small maps being sold or distributed in the tables there. This is the source of the problem. The source of the problem is not the small bombs that are being thrown in the so-called Israeli land from Gaza. This is the source of the problem. That only in 1948, when we had a tragedy of a national party taking over the reins in South Africa, the people of Palestine were attacked in the same year to reduce that green to this white of today. This is the sin of the Palestinian people, that God put them here, and some fellows who were wandering then felt that that land, which did not belong to them, must be taken over through the barrel of the gun. That is the issue here and nothing else.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Also at the pro-Palestinian rally in Lenasia, we heard from the Reverend Frank Chikane, and the Reverend Frank Chikane is a former anti-apartheid stalwart. He's a man who fought against apartheid. The Reverend Frank Chikane urged members of the international community and world leaders to unite in supporting the people of Palestine in their fight for freedom. He said that for the past 40 years while at university and while in the struggle here in South Africa himself, he had been hearing about the plight of the people of Palestine continuing to suffer. Here is also a speech from the Reverend Frank Chikane.
I wasn't sure whether I was start by saying Amandla to you. I've come here from another meeting. I was really put under pressure to make sure I'm here. And I am pleased that I have made it to be here. As we drove through to this place, it reminded me of the old days of the United Democratic Front in Lenasia here. And I just want to say the message about the pain in Gaza and the pain in the whole of Palestine is clear to you. I don't need to come here and convince you about that matter. But I would like to say to you, 40 years ago, when I found myself in the struggle for liberation at the university, whilst we were at the university, the people of Palestine were still oppressed as they are today. 40 years ago, we talked about the oppression of the people of the Palestine, and today we're still talking about it. 29 years ago, when we formed the United Democratic Front, we stood here and said the people of the Palestine must be free as we want to be free. They were our comrades in the struggle, and we were in the trenches together with them. 24 years ago, I visited the area, entered the barricades of the occupied areas as General Secretary of the Council of Churches, and insisted to visit every part of it, visit the refugee camps, see how the lives of the people were there. And that was in 1988. And today, we still talk about the pain of the Palestine. And some few years ago, I remember us sitting at the United Nations corridors, talking with President Arafat about what needed to be done with the president. And today, we still see the pain that is happening in the Palestine. There is only one group of people in the world who are treated as if they are orphans. It's people without a mother and a father, without an elder brother or a sister, elder sister. People who are abandoned and almost like forgotten. And these are the Palestinians. All the struggles of liberation came and went by and we became free. The Palestinians remain oppressed. Over many years, there are many conflicts that have come and gone, but the conflict in the Palestine does not come to an end. Everybody else has claimed rights and were fought for them, and many succeeded, but the people of the Palestine are not allowed. All nationalities have got the right to self-determination, and they demand for it. But the people of the Palestine are not allowed to do that. The world takes sides with people who are in struggles, but the people of the Palestine are left on their own. There is no fairness, there is no justice, there is no peace. I would like to speak today to people who are in power rather than to yourselves. I would like to send a message to those who are in power that there shall be no peace in this world unless there is justice for all. There is justice is not divisible, it will remain justice. There will be no peace without justice. There will also be no justice without equality. There is no justice where one group of people is treated differently from another group of people. And it is important to say to the world, and I've been listening to the voices in the last few days, to say to the world, we are amazed about the hypocrisy of people who talk about justice and doing justice against the people of the Palestine. We are amazed about the hypocrisy of those who talk about democracy and even go to other countries and attack them in the name of promoting democracy when in fact they act against the people of the Palestine. The world is hypocritical. It took me a number of years to understand that the world is not as innocent as we think it is.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
At the same function, Maulana Suleiman Ravat of Radio Islam and also a presenter here at ITV spoke at length, and here is what he had to say.
Takbir! 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 Comrade Zwaranzima Vavi, the Honorable Reverend Frank Chikani, all other speakers tonight, members of the media, brothers and sisters, peace-loving citizens of South Africa and peace-loving human beings. As you can see and as you would know, I am a Muslim. And my religion, Islam, means peace. And as a Muslim, I am a peace-loving human being. And I will commence tonight with the universal Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Almighty Allah be upon all of us. Let me commence by giving you some recent developments in terms of what's happening in Gaza. Yesterday, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, killed 2 Hamas terrorists. These 2 terrorists were hiding in a house in Gaza City. They were twins and they were 4 years old. Allah alone knows what bomb they were constructed in that home, or what their commander, their mother who was also killed, was teaching them as a possibly Iranian trained bomb maker. How many of us know the names of these 4-year-old twins who were massacred? I didn't think so. Very few would know. But how many would know the name of Gilad Shalit, the one Israeli prisoner who was imprisoned for 5 years by Hamas? How many of us would know the names of some of those 10,000 prisoners in Israeli jails? Can we give just 1 name, 2 names, 3 names? We can't. And we are not blameworthy for that, because there isn't much of a fuss that's made when a Palestinian is imprisoned or when a Palestinian is killed. That's just the way it is. Palestinians are described by cold statistics. 124 died, 534 died. No one talks about that walking, talking, breathing human being who has a brother, who has a sister, who has dreams, who has aspirations. They don't talk, they don't want us to talk, but we will talk.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Meanwhile, in Pretoria, there was a night vigil held by members of BDS South Africa, as well as the South African Students' Congress, as well as other students' bodies who united and had a night vigil. They spoke at length about South Africa's support for the Palestinian cause. And here is what Mohamed Desai of BDS South Africa had to say.
As we know, the Israeli Defense Forces killed a member of Hamas on last week, Wednesday. It was an act of extrajudicial assassination. And subsequent to this attack in Gaza of this Hamas leader, Israel then started a military offensive that has led to the death of just over 150 people. And of that 150 people, there have been 30 children. And I want us just for a second to imagine what it means for 30 children to lose their lives. I think it's probably the amount of people that are here currently that would have been killed in the Israeli airstrikes in a period of less than 1 week. In less than 1 week, 30 kids would have been wiped off this planet because of Israeli airstrikes. In one of the deadliest, one of the single most deadly strikes that Israel has carried out, 10 members of one family were killed. And here we're talking about the mother, we're talking about the 4 kids that were aged between 2 and 5 years old. We're talking about the grandmother, an aunt, a cousin, but 10 members in total of this family were killed in one single Israeli airstrike. However, one of the reasons why we are here today, or why we've been here today, is to send a very clear message, to Israel that what it is doing in the Gaza Strip, what it is doing to the Palestinians in general, is unacceptable. And that whilst Israel may not have a conscience, the international community does have a conscience. And the international community is judging Israel. Very harshly with regard to what is happening in the Gaza Strip. So the one message that we are here to give is a message to the government of Israel. But the second message is to our own government. That it has the support of the South African people, that it has the support of major organizations within this country, such as COSATU, such as the South African Communist Party, such as our largest student movement, the South African Students' Congress, such as the support of the World Federation of Trade Unions, which is represented here today, to take decisive action, to take decisive decisions against what Israel is doing. And we're here today to call on the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, as well as the South African government, to do 3 very basic things. The first is to recall our South African ambassador from Tel Aviv. The second is to expel the Israeli ambassador from Pretoria. We don't need normal relations with an abnormal state. We will have relations with countries that are like us, that do pursue peace, but we have no obligation whatsoever to have relations with a regime similar to the Israeli regime. And finally, we are calling on the South African government to impose a program of broad-based boycotts, divestments, and sanctions until Israel ends its violence against the Palestinian people.
From the WFTU, and we want to greet this crowd and pledge our solidarity with the people of Palestine. From the beginning, we took a stand when we were born as a confederation, a world confederation, that we stand on the side of the oppressed. We stand on the side of the exploited. And here today we are together with everyone else on the side of solidarity with the Palestinian people. We have seen it, we have been there practically. And on Sunday, our General Secretary was meeting with the fighters from Palestine in practical solidarity with the people of Solidarity for their freedom from the apartheid oppression by Israel. And the other dimension of this oppression is that it's not something that is isolated. We know that behind it all is the United States of America imperialists. So that when we take any move, we must even consider, for example, going to the gates of the American embassy and raising our voice there, going to the gates of the Zionist Israel embassy and raising our voice there. The WFTU is always on the side of the Palestinian people, and every step of the way until the people of Palestine are free, we will move together. Thank you.
Well, as you've heard from our various speakers, many of them are calling for the South African government to expel the Israeli ambassador from South Africa. But we are yet to see if the South African government will heed to these calls and recall the South African ambassador from Tel Aviv, or even expel the Israeli ambassador from Pretoria. Let's wait and see. From me, Hassan Islo, until next weekend, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما